Well, welcome to the Esports Performance Summit. My name is Brian Bain, and with me today is Sam Gonzalez. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's really exciting.
yeah. Well, we're honored to have you with us. Appreciate you giving us some of your time. And just for those of you, our audience not familiar or don't know you yet, do you mind giving a little bit of background on yourself, just as a gamer and kind of where you're at and what you're doing in the esports space?
My background, I've been playing games since I was like 7. I'm 27 now. I'm still in college. I'm finishing up a degree at the University of Texas at Austin in exercise science. And I took a long break from gaming because like I'm a little bit older when you think about college kids and you think about gamers. So whenever I was young, it was even less of a thing than it was for the college kids now, to where the parents were basically like, this is a waste of time. You can't do this. So I took a really long break away from gaming and really started to explore sports and fitness and really developed a passion for that. And whenever I started getting older and, went out on my own, I started to reignite this passion for gaming. And I saw that there was a need for this other thing that I have now become incredibly passionate about, fitness and traditional sports. And so I started streaming and I wanted to bring that idea of like, you can do both to gamers. And then I started getting back into the gaming space, working my way back into the industry. And I started working with the Longhorn Gaming Organization at UT and moved up to vice president. And that's now where I sit. That's a little brief background. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And, as you and I discussed prior to the interview, I think one thing to be really, based upon where you're positioned and your background, it'd be fun to have a really discussion around kind of like the state of gaming. It's esports and gaming. Gaming isn't new, but the current state of gaming is very new in terms of like the whole idea of esports and everything else. And I think you're really well positioned to speak into that. It's a relatively new industry. It's a young industry, and as an industry, it's not very mature. Meaning, people aren't really sure what's going on or how it's going to pan out or what it's going to look like. They just know it's exciting. There's lots of momentum, and we're eager to kind of move the ball forward. But that being the case, people are looking for direction and also trying to understand what's actually going on right now. And I would love to have a discussion with you about that. Like, what do you see going on in gaming right now? And what are the trends? What are the needs? What are the opportunities? And, all the above.
Yeah. There's a lot to unwrap there, first off. So I think what makes me special in talking about this is that I had that big break in the middle. So I've been a gamer since I was a kid, but I wasn't so absorbed in the gamer space that I turned a blind eye to like some of the problems that I'm seeing now. And I think that could be an issue potentially with some of the gamers now, is that some of the people in the industry now is that they've been in the industry and only in the industry for so long that I see sometimes that they're not even sure where it's going or how to manage its growth. And it started and it got to where it is now largely on like a grassroots effort. It's just a bunch of passionate people coming together. They like this thing and they want to see it work and they want to create something out of it. So they just pool their resources and their time and they made it happen. So now, whenever the industry is really starting to explode, you see a lot of people who are not quite sure how a sports organization works or how to put on these big events and stuff. And you still see that grassroots, like these people are, sometimes not fully educated. They don't have a lot of experience, but they're just really passionate about gaming and they know the guy with the idea. So they got to move into the space. So I think now what I'm seeing a lot of necessity for is really experienced people coming in and saying, look, you guys have a passion for this. You guys love this. And we have the knowledge and the experience to take it to the next level. And whenever I see those two worlds like merge, I think that's when esports and gaming is really going to hit the next level.
And you used the phrase earlier, T-sports, which I
Right.
actually had not heard before. Can you talk about that phrase and kind of the intersections you're seeing between T sports and esports?
Yeah. So T sports is short for traditional sports. It was actually coined by a panelist that I heard in DreamHack. So I didn't come up with it. I don't want to take credit for it. But I think it sounds cool and it's a lot easier to say, esports and T sports. And esports works a lot of ways the same way any T sport would work. There's the teams, there's the organizations, there's the event space, there's the sponsorships, there's the production, there's the marketing. It's all the same thing, except instead of basketball, we're talking about League of Legends. So, I mean, of course, there's going to be those differences. Like League of Legends just needs a stage. So there's also a lot of overlap with the music industry. You're putting on a big production, but it's not something that you need a large field like the 100-yard football field. You don't need that large space, that large arena. You just need a stage, and you need the shiny lights, and you need the loud sounds, and you need the shoutcasters. And so there is that merge of like, you see a lot of music and traditional sports coming together to create a really powerful esports experience. Not sure if I hit the question, but
Yeah, no,
I
that's
just kind of went on a rant there.
Yeah, no. I mean, before the interview, you talked about a couple of different kind of like key themes that you had identified and wanted to kind of address, and I knew that one of them was that idea of the merging of T sports and esports, and so I just wanted to be able to kind of give you a platform for talking that through.
Oh, okay. Well, just to touch on that a little more, I want to see, because there are facilities that right now everything's separate. T sports is over here and esports is over here, and I don't see anybody really trying to create that bridge. I don't know if anybody even really sees the connections. I'm sure there are people who see it, or they're getting hints of it, or they know that they need to hire somebody from a traditional sports marketing background to really take their esports marketing to the next level. Like, I'm sure people are seeing that, but nobody is putting esports into like a gym setting. There are really cool things that are being done on the pro scene. So, for example, Complexity Gaming partnered with GameStop to create the GameStop Performance Center. Is actually in Dallas. You should definitely go check it out. And basically, this is a team headquarters. It's a really fancy, expensive, high-end facility where they recreate what it's like to be on stage for their pro teams to practice. And they have the Mind Body Center that they partnered with Mamba Sports, which is created in part by Kobe Bryant. And they have this large event space where, the players can come in and just relax and hang out. So you see that there are these mergers of like, we know that our esports pros need to think about their health if they want to take their games to the next level. But you don't see that on the consumer side. No LAN center is telling the people who come in, hey, if you partner with the gym down the street, you get 50% off. We're still seeing the same thing. You come into these dark dungeon style rooms with all the shiny lights, and that's fun and it's exciting, but it's still, I think, room for improvement is the kind way of saying
Yeah.
it.
Well, it sounds like, on the pro level, one thing that I know is there's a lot of money involved there. You've got really wealthy people who either own these teams or start these teams in most cases, and that's an investment for them, and they want to take care of their investment. So all that innovation and those things you're describing, it makes sense that it's happening there, and I'm glad that it's happening there. But in lots of other areas, it's just, again, being a new industry, it hasn't trickled down in all the other, I'll say, tiers outside of pros of gaming. And people, there's not, and obviously there's not the resources available. It makes it a little more complicated. But part of the call that I'm hearing from you is for kind of all of us to realize the need and the opportunity that's happening there, and start having those conversations, start making those connections, and realizing. I think you talked about the idea of esports teams partnering with gyms and other things to realize. I mean, this is there's a natural alignments all over the place that are completely being missed because people see gaming as sitting in front of your computer and T sports or traditional sports as running and sweating and that being really active, when there's far more correlation and overlap than people initially might imagine.
Yeah, that was a great way to sum it up. That was beautiful, actually. I'm going to write that down.
Well, that's kind of you. Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense. And I think that's one of the things about this conversation that I'm excited about is getting a feel for those gaps, the state of gaming right now. And I think that one you're describing is a really crucial one for, I'll say amateur gamers, not meaning you're not good or you're not important, but you're not just getting paid like pros are. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there. And this summit is full of people like yourself who are looking to bridge those gaps even more so. And, but I love what you're saying about the T-Sport and E-Sport integration opportunities there. What were some that you had a few other themes that you were addressing as well? I'd love to hear about a few more of those.
Okay, yeah. So I think from there, a good transition would be into creating the infrastructure. So what I think that these mergers, like you said, trickling down into the collegiate scene, the amateur scene, maybe even the high school and middle school levels, I think what we really want to see there is that normal everyday people, up and comers, are getting the same kind of treatment as these pro teams are. That we're creating the infrastructure for the next generation of people to come in and take it to the next level, because they've been receiving pro level training in pro level facilities since middle school, which is unheard of right now. So this complexity facility, the GameStop Performance Center, is like the first of its kind as far as I'm aware. And it's just a team headquarters. And it is open to the public, but the public only has access to certain parts of the facility, but they don't have full access to, all the gyms and this mind-body experience that Mamba created. And, so seeing it trickle down into like the next generation who's going to take it over after we retire or move on is, I think, the first step in creating this infrastructure that's going to keep the industry going and growing and keep it sustainable.
Yeah. And I think, one thing about, again, making the esports and T-sport connection is, here in Texas, we're both in Texas, the thing about American football as an example. You've got your pros, you've got very clear levels, pro, college, high school, and then, junior high, Pee-wee leagues or whatever else. But, in a lot of places in Texas, and I know other states as well, you've got a very extremely developed programs down to even the junior high level. A lot of big schools have a very, full-time coaches teaching junior high football, and they have their own facilities. They have their own quality playing field. It's not as great as others, but it's safe. It's a quality field. And then you go up. There's a lot of high school stadiums that rival college stadiums, and then college stadiums that are greater access than pro stadium. Of course, one theme with a lot of that is, what brings in the money gets the money in a lot of ways too. And so I'm curious about, I think that's one big question in gaming right now is how is the money piece. One is taking gaming more seriously and realizing the role that it is playing, but also the other side is funding. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that side of it in terms of helping to bring those pro benefits down to the amateur level.
Yeah, of course. Again, perfect segue into the next part. Bringing gaming to a wider audience. So creating this infrastructure so that, these younger groups can experience a higher level of training is the first step, I think, to introducing a wider fan base to gaming and to esports. And if we can manage to educate people and empower a general population to learn that esports is fun and exciting and in some ways different and good than, football or baseball, those same types of people who are interested in those sports, if we give them the opportunity to learn that they can be interested in esports as well, if we change what their stereotypes are for what gaming is and, welcome them into the community, then the wider fan base means more ticket sales, bigger facilities, merchandise sales, bigger sponsorships, and that's when the money all starts coming together, I think.
Yeah. What, as far as like esports events now, like I'm curious, like how common, like even in Austin, for example, I mean, how common is it for there to be an esports competition that you go and actually attend live and pay for, or online and pay for?
They're actually really common. The Smash scene is actually huge for this type of thing, and there are more and more facilities that you see popping up that are starting to host these events. The issue is they're really underground right now. Only the people who are already in the scene know that they exist.
Gotcha.
And sometimes only the people who are really deep in the scene know they exist. So it's almost like the underground. Yeah. If we can get the word out and get more people interested, these events are happening. It's, how do you drive attendance to them?
Right. What do you think it would take for people outside of the gaming world to, you talk about breaking down stereotypes or changing stereotypes and things along those lines? I'm curious if you have any thoughts as far as what it would take or what some ideas are to help bridge that gap to a broader audience that maybe thinks, gaming is something, your kids do or some junior high kids do in the basement. And then sports is the cool thing over here, T-sports, but helping to kind of flip that, or not flip that around, but help integrate that more. I'm curious if you have any thoughts as far as help people change those stereotypes.
Yeah. Stereotypes is a big word there. I actually had someone bring this to me to rephrase it to say that instead of changing stereotypes, we are empowering gamers. And that sounds a lot better to them when you're trying to sell it to them, so you're not telling them like, listen, we're going to shape you up so we can get rid of all these negative stereotypes that are attached to your community. We approach it as saying like, we're empowering you guys to, educate you about health and fitness. And I think it does definitely have a lot to do with it, trying to kill these stereotypes. And you do that by teaching them how to, counter them. And you do that by starting early, starting young, and introducing the next generation of gamers to the idea that, there's more to this than just sitting in front of a computer. And if you want to educate the older groups now to bring in people to events, they want to see that their kids are being healthy and, taking care of themselves, and that these stereotypes are false. And they want to go out to the events, and like, they don't necessarily have to understand the game because sometimes the games are very complicated, but to just see get a real experience that you're in the stands and there's all this noise and lights and excitement, and it's a real fun thing to do. If people will open those doors to them and invite them in, then I think I think that's how you do that. And I've seen a lot of like anecdotal firsthand experiences of that, where somebody's not interested in gaming at all. They don't really care. They think, gamers are nerds who lock themselves in their parents' basement and they eat Cheetos all day and they're sitting in dark rooms. And I mean, I'm sure there are people who do that, but that's not the message we're trying to send. So you go to these people and you say, listen, just come to an event with me. Just have a good time with it. I'll buy your ticket. Don't even worry about the $40 price tag. It's, and then they come out and they see like, wow, this is amazing. These people are like celebrities. They're just like pro athletes in football. People are walking up to them asking for autographs. The stands are packed. There's this crazy production value, and they see that. Then it starts becoming like, oh, this is more than just, my kid in the basement. This is real.
Well, and I think about, I remember, gosh, this was probably like 16 years or so ago. I remember I remember sitting down and watching a couple of friends playing Madden football, and that's back before any gaming, or at least material any gaming, was online. I remember two key things that stand out to me. One, I remember sitting down, a couple of friends were playing Madden football, and I remember I sat down and was watching them play. And I just actually watched them play for a while, and I was thoroughly just enjoying watching them play, which is a unique experience. And another thing is, that's back in the early days of Halo, and I remember, not uncommon on weekends, for my roommate to have like 3 or 4 of the buddies come over would physically bring their TVs and their Xbox consoles and would all play. They'd all integrate them together and play Halo together. And that was like the early days of esports. We just didn't think of it that way. The reason I share that is none of those people would be thought of as gamers, first of all. I mean, they'd all play traditional sports. They do, I mean, they're just as normal as anybody else. I'm not saying gamers aren't normal, but I'm talking about the stereotypes.
Oh, yeah, no, I totally understand what you mean.
And also, it just shows me like I thoroughly enjoyed watching some of these guys just playing. And I think that, I wonder if that could be part of the component, is people realizing, even from home, sitting down and watching. I could see if a major network publicized and actually aired a video game competition, that would be really interesting. I mean, I know right now they're all online. You can watch them online on Twitch or YouTube, but that's not going to get the audience outside. You know what I mean? And I'm wondering if obviously we can't control that event, but because I imagine a lot of people sit down and watch. They knew the background of some of the players. They understood what the game was about. They can sit down and watch and realize, hey, this is kind of cool. This is fun to just watch. I'm kind of talking out loud, or obviously talking out loud, but I'm processing out loud. I'm wondering if that could help bring a breakthrough. Then someone could think, oh, wow, we've got a stadium here in Dallas. I should go to that. I should go check it out.
Yeah, you're definitely right. ESPN has actually been picking up some esports stuff, but again, it's been mostly online. They haven't actually broadcast it on cable to, the television audience. So yeah, I definitely see that it seems to be moving in that direction. Just the fact that ESPN is interested is huge. And if they, again, see the numbers, going back to that,
that's it.
How do we?
The eyeballs.
If they see the money, right, then of course they'll bring it to TV. So allowing those types of things to happen, because you do see some backlash within the gaming community, like, oh, what is ESPN doing? Think about the bigger picture, and think about that. ESPN is a great name to put a sport out into the world,
right?
And we should be happy that they're interested. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, and that's the thing that's kind of exciting that I've seen is so many of this. I mean, there's these pro teams exist for a reason, because people with a lot of money see the value in the attention and the growth and the momentum of esports. And I mean, I want to be careful about predicting the future, but I almost want to say inevitably that is going to create that wave of attention beyond there. Like, and eventually, people who, have kids that are gamers today are the adults of tomorrow and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think we have to wait for them to grow up for this to happen. Because the reality is, I think someone told me the other day that the average gamer is 34 years old. Again, those numbers, it's hard to quantify that. I think that was in Australia specifically from one of our speakers. But
yeah,
again,
I think that is an interesting piece of information, and I've definitely heard that before, but I don't know how valuable that information is, because gaming is a very broad umbrella term. And if we're talking about esports specifically, I'm not sure how relevant that would be. It's definitely worth looking into. I don't actually know if there is a difference there, like between like the esports viewer or participator.
Well, to your point, gaming it basically means like any kind of gaming someone can play, like online or on a device. So that could be, a 7-year-old person playing Words with Friends or Candy Crush. So to your point, exactly. Which is not esports and is not gaming as we're describing it, but the numbers. Yeah, it's hard, but I based upon my experience, I think it probably is safe to say that people who are really into esports would definitely skew much younger. I think that's very easy to say. I think that's probably safe to say that much. Okay, so we talked about, the integration of esports and T-sports, creating the infrastructure that's needed, bringing gaming to a wider audience. I think you had a few other themes you wanted to draw out before we wrap things up. Not to put you on the spot, maybe I miscounted.
Let's see. The other two we already actually spoke about, targeting youth, empowering gamers, and developing public facilities to improve infrastructure. So that would be basically taking these ideas of these pro team headquarters and bringing them to a general consumer audience, open to the public, full access to all the facility instead of just the team. And that's actually I'm working on a business plan to create, I believe, the first one.
Oh, great.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's selfish to drop that, but I think just the fact that I've taken that news, that information, that idea to a lot of people and have received a lot of really positive feedback shows that people are thinking about this and the industry wants to go there.
Well, and one thing that I appreciate about what you've been saying, and a lot of our faculty in the summit have said similar things, is that, there's a lot of positive things happening at the pro level, and, trying to figure out, well, how do we get those things to come down into, I say, non-professional levels? And, there is a dynamic of that trickling down in a sense in terms of as, a broader audience, more money, then more development can happen on non-professional levels, college, high school, youth, things like that. But I think the more proactive approach, the approach that I know you're personally advocating for, is that also that's great and that we welcome that, but not waiting for that and being proactive and realizing let's, as non-professionals, start taking greater responsibility for ourselves, our health, our wellness, and the way we game, the way we practice, and so that basically not waiting for pro sets to come down, but the non-professional sides just growing in maturity significantly out of just being proactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I know that you've got a heart and passion specifically for youth and helping them get started on the right foot and get started with healthy gaming practices, which I'm really excited about because I think there's obviously a lot of great need and opportunity there. And I think we're in a world where gaming is, again, we want to be careful of future predictions, but I want to say it's only going to get bigger. As just looking at the way we consume media, we spend a lot of time watching TV, a lot of time at our computers and at work or otherwise. And as that gaming experience continues to evolve and become more engaging, and then not even to mention the how things will change as augmented reality, virtual reality becomes a bigger player. It only makes sense that these will become a bigger and bigger part of our lives. And the better job we can do today, again, the whole point of this summit and the efforts that you're already start launching out on is to help people, hey, let's take this seriously. Let's keep having fun and never let that go, but realize, man, sleep matters. Diet matters.
Exactly.
Physical exercise matters, even if it's not a team sport. And this summit's full of faculty who are talking about all the different benefits: exercise, sleep, diet, hydration, all those things bring to your gaming. That it's easy to be, it's easy to be a lazy gamer, and I guess that's part of the message is helping to mature the gaming audience to realize, man, you can be a lazy gamer. But if you do that, you're probably not going to be a very great gamer, and you're probably not going to be a very long-term gamer because those not taking your health seriously will put you on the sidelines, potentially full-time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hey, Sam, man, thanks so much for being on the summit. We really appreciate you giving us your time. Thanks for all your efforts down at UT and helping kind of lead and be a part of the gaming community there, and we really look forward to reconnecting. But in the meantime, thanks for being part of the summit. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.